Welcome in our panel for the day. We still got somebody waiting in the wings over there, but we got Josh Ward right here, Chuck Cavaleris right here, Will West right here. Thanks to all of you for being here. Again, in Tennessee tournament history, in terms of bigger wins against teams that were seeded 7th or higher, you beat Duke pretty badly in 2023, just a couple of years ago. You whipped up on UConn, who was defending national champion back in 2000. That's it. Now you add another blue blood. You did it to Duke, you did it to UConn, now you did it to UCLA. Josh, I'll start with you. Just your takeaways on what I feel was one of the best showings ever by a UT basketball team in the big dance.
Yeah, there's no question about whether the better team won in that game. Tennessee looked like a team that's been talked about as a real Final Four contender, a potential national title contender, and Tennessee turned it on. It wasn't the best start. We've seen that plenty of times in NCAA tournament games, but too often a slow start can carry over for 40 minutes and becomes a game that you have to fight to win. You might get upset. It didn't happen in the first half. Tennessee turns it on late, carries it over into the start of the second half. The guys that we've talked about all season led, Zakai Ziegler at point guard, Chaz Lanier stays hot to start in the NCAA tournament. So the guys that led needed to, and Tennessee didn't allow UCLA. I know the final few minutes, UCLA's putting some points on the board, but the game was never in doubt. Tennessee left no doubt about which team was better.
Right by as many as 19, I think, topped out. Yeah. Chuck?
Could that have been Tennessee's biggest win ever in Rupp Arena? I mean, that's kind of one of the things I was thinking. I know you've got more than a lot of people would think, or a lot of schools have. The half-court trap, guys, to me, that changed everything because you outscored them 8-0 in the half.
And then 3-0 to start the next half.
Yes. Yeah. And then I think, it was like 11-5 or something like that, or going in the second half. So that was really, UCLA didn't have an answer for that. And even if they did get it across midcourt, guys, they settled for just getting across midcourt, and that makes the press win even more. Not only, and one time it was Lanier at the end of the half, got to steal, goes in, layup, foul, three-point play. Mm-hmm. But if you settle against the press just to get it across half court, I wouldn't stop pressing. Because my dad coached me, and he always said, you have to beat the press or they're going to beat you. And I think that was true.
Well, clearly UCLA, their ball handlers weren't ready for that. And the way Tennessee, it's interesting they didn't ratchet it up earlier. But, boy, when they put it into effect there, as Chuck pointed out, it's an 11-0 run over the course of, we cross over halftime, 11-0 run that basically changed the game. Because that looked, before that run, you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be a neck-and-neck thing right to the end. I hope we don't, and it also started with fouls being called all over the place. So you're like, okay, here we go. Is this the night that Tennessee fouls out of the whole tournament? So the fact that they turned that on there at the end of the half, it was a big adjustment by Rick Barnes. He deserves credit for doing it.
No, I thought there were two huge adjustments by Rick Barnes in this game, and I tip your cap to him. That guy's a really good coach. This is a really good basketball team.
Second adjustment.
The second adjustment was going straight downhill with Ziegler. Off the ball screen, instead of ball screen, he dribbles looking for an outside shot, move the ball side to side. Let's try to find an outside shot. Ziegler goes straight downhill. And they also initiated their offense incredibly early in the possession. How many times have we seen Tennessee scores 23 points the first 10 minutes of a half? Rick Barnes tells Zakai, slow it down. They slow it down, they get into their half court, and they kind of go slower about it. They went straight downhill, and I thought that attacking style, it helps Chaz Lanier because he's a guy that wants to play in space. It helps Igor Milicic. He's a guy that wants to play in space. And in basketball, you're just better in space versus trying to compact it. And I don't know that there's a point guard in the United States of America, especially that's left in the tournament, that can stay in front of Zakai when he's coming downhill off of a ball screen like that. So either you're going to go over the top and then you have the pick and roll that's just wide open, or he's going to come straight downhill if you hedge on that bad boy, and there's going to be layups that happen. So I thought Rick Barnes with the trap first and then working to that, I thought that was magnificent. I will say I have a concern, though, because about midway to the second half, once Tennessee had just dominated them, UCLA goes to a three-quarter court press, which forces Tennessee to be slower about taking the ball up. And I do wonder, is that going to be a problem? Will someone look at what Tennessee did against UCLA, if it's Kentucky, if it's Illinois, and say, let's press them to make sure they don't go fast on us because we can't stay in front of Zakai?
I thought Zakai Ziegler looked fantastic yesterday. There aren't many games where I thought he was more in control, especially, again, once the last couple of minutes of the first half and then that back half, it was one of his best showings. You look at what he and Lanier have done in this tournament so far. Last night, Lanier with 20 points. He had 29 against Wofford. Ziegler with 15. Gainey with 13 last night. You also had, just in the first 2 games, Ziegler has now passed broken Johnny Darden's record for assists, and Johnny Darden was in attendance.
Right.
Chris Lofton was in attendance yesterday when Lanier breaks his record for threes in the season. You're hitting some pretty impressive numbers here. I'm someone who said on the show, and we've debated this, I liked last year's team. I thought last year's team was more dangerous than this year's team. Main reason being you had offense. Your offense is always going to be your offense under Rick Barnes, but I thought you had more offense last year. Plus you had your normal defense, and you had Dalton Connect. You had this magical guy that, if all else fails, use him. What I saw yesterday, and what I saw against Wofford, if you go back to the first-round game, they were really never pressured in that. People
They
I
played
know
with their food, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of a big brother with his hand on the little brother's head. You can't hit me. Maybe I'm coming over to your side. This team is looking awfully dangerous. If I'm the next team, if I'm Kentucky or Illinois, and I know Kentucky's beaten Tennessee twice. I know Illinois almost beat Tennessee.
Right.
I'm not sure I'd be happy to be playing Tennessee right now.
They're good when they do this. When they try to slow it down, this is how they lose, right? I would say this: Chaz Lanier's not going to shoot better than 50% beyond the arc continually. Yeah. So that means he's going to regress to the mean and have a 33% beyond the arc shooting night. How does the rest of Tennessee's offense react when that happens? But the other thing, when you look at the other teams that are there, Illinois, you've already beaten them. Kentucky, I don't know if they're going to be there because Mark Pope won his first NCAA tournament game just 2 days ago. And then Houston, did you watch the Houston-Gonzaga game? Gonzaga came back because they did a half-court trap on Houston.
Yeah, and Houston
they
couldn't
could not
handle it.
handle it.
No,
and so if Tennessee can do that against L.J. Cryer and those guys with the Cougars, you got to feel good about Tennessee's chances.
Tennessee with 13 second-chance points last night, and once again, 14 of 16 from the free throw line.
Right.
Another thing that they continue to take advantage of, when they get to the line, they put it in the hole. Overall, are you feeling better about? You've watched 2 games now. Where are you with this team? Do you think? Are you sitting there thinking this team may be ready for a better run than I expected, or are you sitting there going, nah, this is what I anticipated?
Well, it's kind of what I anticipate. I think it just kind of reaffirms what they're capable of doing. Pre-game, during the game, post-game, Rick Barnes stressed rebounding. And he does that all the time, right? But he, after the game, he's talking to the team. Tennessee puts out the video, and he asks, what were we rebounding? Plus 10. They're going to emphasize it again because those little things matter, taking care of the basketball. I know turnovers late, but Sky Ziegler, control is the word you use, John. That's right. Yeah. They have a point guard that can control the game. He sees everything on the floor. So if we compare this year's team to last year's team, I might take last year's team, but I also think about, well, Zakai's a year older.
Yeah.
Jemai Mashak, a year older. Jordan Gainey and what he can do, and he'll be an important player in the next weekend. They're a year older, and that matters at this time of year. So this team has shown what it's capable of. Our shot's going to fall. We can ask that question with any team, but this team is capable of going on a run beyond next weekend.
And I feel better, John, because of one thing Ziegler said after the SEC tournament, the runner-up finish, when you lost to Florida. He said there was so much motivation in that, watching the confetti fall on your rival, and that carried over. I think it resonated with a lot of those guys, and I think they're showing some of that too. It means something when all of a sudden you know now your next loss is your last, and it's over.
Well, and I also say this: they didn't look tired.
No.
They went the extra distance in the SEC tournament. They did not look tired. So there you go. For those of you like, they won't be tired, they're young. They didn't look tired. Okay. Now, sometimes they do look tired, but that's okay. When we come back, with 3 Sweet 16 trips in a row now, let's talk about the Vols program and where it is, and let's talk about Rick Barnes' tourney record now. That's next. Coming back on the Sports Source.